Okay. I was just looking up this really interesting word. See if I could find the root of it. The word is from the verse in Mishlei, Proverbs. Ani ohaveha ehav umishacharai yimtsaunani. Umishacharai is a very strange word. Literally the translation of the verse, let's get the translation here. Let's get the translation here. 8. I love those who love me. This is from Proverbs. I love those who love me, and those who search for me shall find me. I love those who love me. Really, according to the commentators, they say it's speaking about wisdom, that wisdom love those who love her. And some are saying, of course, it's God is speaking, saying that he loves those who love the Torah. And then the second part is mostly the focus of today. The second part is the focus of, and those who search for me shall find me. Okay? So it brings down in Proverbs, that's in chapter 8, that is in verse 17. Right? I love those who love me, and those who search for me shall find me. Today's lesson is about becoming a seeker. Okay? Becoming a seeker. Are you a seeker? Okay? It's a big one. Now, I know that in Harry Potter they had a character called a seeker. I think that was in their Quidditch game where he tried to chase the ball, whatever. But we have a different idea completely of what a seeker is. And it comes down to it that the theme of the day or the concept is to pray and to desire and to connect with our inner desire to become that seeker, okay? And it does also remind me, actually, about the story that I told you a while back about the lost princess. Rabbi Nachman's famous story about how the king had one daughter who he lost, and the viceroy went to search for her, and searched and searched and searched, and he finally found her in the Golden Mountain and the Pearl Castle. A seeker he was, and a seeker we have to be. And I believe we're starting today, if I'm not mistaken, and someone can help me.
91, 160.
160, 91. Perfect. Thank you, Howard. Okay, so here we go. Every single thing that we've been discussing here is about our approach to Torah. And our approach to Torah has to be, of course, we say lishma, for its sake, for the sake of life. But our desire is, when we approach Torah, is we want to have our eyes opened up. We say, Gal einai va'abita niflaot mitorasecha. Open my eyes, and open my eyes, Gal einai va'abita, and let me see the wonders of your Torah. We need to get this aha through the Torah. As it brings down in the Zohar, where is God hidden? He's hidden in the Torah. We would think the Torah should be where he's revealed. Okay? Why should God be hidden in the Torah? Let me just close the door here. Why should God be hidden in the Torah? Okay? So the idea here is when we approach the Torah, we're supposed to come to a higher levels of consciousness, not just book knowledge. And this is what he's getting to today. Okay? We're getting into the 4 levels of consciousness, and of course reaching to the highest level where we come to a sincere love of God in the deepest way. So now we're on paragraph 91, okay? So now we have answered, one second, I know how to do this now, I figured it out. Okay. I'm just going to mute everybody so that it's better, and if you need to speak, we'll leave it at the end, okay? So, Now, paragraph 91 on page 160. Now we have answered the question that we have asked above. And the question was, why someone who has already reached the third level of perception of God's providence, and that is, a person is completely, totally aware of God's cause and effect in the world. It's a level for sure, about whom God has already testified that he or she will not sin anymore. Is still only called, this person is only still called an incomplete tzaddik, an incompletely righteous person, okay? Even though he's reached this unbelievable level where where he's confronted by a mitzvah, it's a great opportunity and he runs to it like a worldly pleasure. And of course, something which would be a transgression, he would run from it like a fire. He is in that level. We can now understand this clearly as he still lacks one mitzvah, and that is the mitzvah of love. So the person is certainly not complete, as he or she needs to attain the entire completement of 613 mitzvot, which is the first step of the threshold of perfection. In other words, until you have reached the highest level of love of God, then you haven't got there. In other words, God demands from us perfection. He demands from us the highest. We have to demand the highest for ourselves as well, and never settle, God forbid, for anything less than that, okay? And we have to shoot for the highest and don't give up, okay? So even though that you might be on one level of perception of God's divine providence until you are madly in love with God, and constantly, so you're not there yet. But thank God we know inside of us that we can do it, okay? That's the important thing. We can do it. We must do it. God wants a relationship with us so much more badly than we want with him, you know? And the idea here is for us to move ourselves, and thank God for the Torah that it has the ability to do that, as we're going to see. So now he's going to focus on the 4 questions. Okay, so he just answered one question, which was, okay, I'm not a perfect tzaddik. Okay, he says that's not the level that we're supposed to be achieving for. The perfect tzaddik is in love with God. And that's why we have what's called the Benoni, the middleman. And that's why you'll have a righteous person who's incomplete, meaning there's always more to go, okay? And now he's going to focus on 4 questions, and he's going to go through them. This paragraph is just going to say what the questions are, and then he's going to explain them, okay? So 92, and we've gone over these questions before, but he's got to keep bringing us into it. In all that has been said, we have now clarified the questions we raised above. How did the Torah command us to love God when it is not at all within our power to occupy ourselves with this mitzvah, or even to come close to it by the slightest touch? Because, again, to force a feeling is something that we have difficulty accomplishing, okay? Even though we are really, in a certain sense, the Torah does demand us to be in state management, okay? Still, nevertheless, to love something is something that, can you force someone to love, really, when you think about it? It's an emotion. So, something that seems to be out of touch with us. So that's the question that he did ask. When we're commanded to love God, how is that possible? That's question number 1. Question number 2, we have seen concerning this issue that the sages said a different chazal. This is a statement from the Gemara and Megillah that we're going to go into a little bit today. Concerning what the sages have cautioned us, saying, do not believe a person who says, I labored, but I did not find. I'm going to go back. I'm going to give you the entire statement here from the Gemara and Megillah, because it helps us to have it in our mind. Okay? So Rabbi Yitzchak says, this is from the Talmud, in Talmud Bavli, in Gemara Brachot, on Daf Vav, second side of the page, Amud Beit. Rabbi Yitzchak says, if a person says to you, I made effort, but I didn't find, don't believe him. That's dude number one. Okay? Second dude number two says, I didn't effort and I found. Don't believe him. That's number two. And then the third person is, Yagati umatsasi ta'amin. I made the effort and I found. Him you can believe. Notice how we don't have number four, right? Who's number four? I didn't look and I didn't find. Okay, I guess maybe you can believe that guy. Okay, that's an easy one. The question is, why do we need all these three characters here? Why can't you just cut to the chase and say, the person who says, I made effort and I found, you can believe? Why do we need number one, who says, I made effort and I did not find? Why do we need, and don't believe him? Why do we need to know that? And the person who says, I didn't make any effort and I found, also, we don't believe him. Only the guy who says, I made effort and found, I believe him. Okay? That was that phrase. So here he says, going back in paragraph 92, we have seen concerning the issue that the sages have cautioned us, saying, do not believe a person who says, I labored, but I did not find. Okay, he's going to explain that. They also said a person should always practice Torah and mitzvah, even if it is not for its own sake, because through the practice of Torah, which is not for its own sake, lo lishma, he will come to practice Torah and mitzvot for its own sake, and then the Bible testifies about that person. And here's where we get to the phrase of the day, the catch lesson of the day, the take home of the day is, those who seek me will find me. Okay? And this is how he's going to string it all together to understand these principles. Okay? Paragraph 93. This is the language of the sages that we just went through this. Rabbi Yitzchak said, if a person should say to you, I labored, but I did not find, don't believe him. I didn't labor, but nevertheless I found, don't believe him. And then the third person is, I labored and I found, believe him. So this is actually referring to matters of Torah. Very important. In matters of business, this rule may not apply. I like how she translated it. It's interesting. But the actual translation, the actual wording is, this, when I made effort and I found, you can believe that person is talking about Torah. In business matters, as we know, it's called siyata d'shemaya. That means help from heaven. Okay? In other words, in business matters, everything is stipulated by what we call help from heaven. Okay? Because we see that people do minimal effort and they score big time. And some people work so hard and nothing. Okay? So it doesn't apply, this rule, in the business world. We questioned the connection between the term laboring and the term finding. We had this question earlier. Because when we talk about a person, it seems to be self-contradictory, as what he says here, because when we say, I work, yagati, yagia. Yagia means work, I toiled. Laboring is usually associated with the concept of acquiring. We have bought. We acquired. When we talk about the word finding, that implies something that comes to you without any effort. You're walking down the street and you find something. Usually, the terms should be, I worked and I acquired, not I worked and I found. It's a strange, puzzling usage of language. So that's why the Sulam is puzzled with this word, I found. It should be a person who says in Torah, I worked and I acquired. Okay, you can believe him. Okay, you acquired. Okay? When a person shoots for becoming a doctor, lawyer, or Indian chief, they work and they acquire it. Okay? Here is the language of I found. What is this finding? It doesn't seem to be congruous with the language. Okay? So, however, going on, you should know that the language of finding that the Talmud uses here comes from this biblical phrase, those who seek me, find me. So here we're getting the doorway into the concept of what it means to be finding me, okay? And it hinges on the findings of what we call Gilui Panim. Everything that we're shooting for here is called Gilui Panim in terms of the stages of consciousness. Number 3 is called revealing of God's face. Okay, that means you got an aha in your head. God gave you the aha. You know what the aha means. Everybody's searching. We all want the aha all day long. Okay, we need the aha. We're craving for the aha. The aha is the princess in the golden mountain and the pearl castle. That's the aha. Okay, that's the finding. Okay, actually, it's pops in the head. Okay, so the idea here of those who seek me find me, and this means that the person finally grasps how God is running the world and what's really going on. As the Zohar says, we only find, and we have to dig into this, and you have to really integrate this, and I'm not even sure I got it 100%, folks. The Torah says we only find God in the Torah. That is to say, through laboring in Torah, we become worthy of finding the revelation of God's face. You would think to look into the world, and yes, we are supposed to look into the world and see God. We're busy all day going from this activity to that activity, and we're going from here to there, and we're looking for God all the time. Actually, you have to question, are you looking for God? Okay? Sometimes we get so caught up in stuff. We know, we get so caught up in, I got to do this chore, I got to that chore, I got chores. We have to go ahead and take a step back. And we have to retrain our mind. We have to retrain our perception. We have to go, where can I find God in these activities? How can I use this seemingly mundane activity for an elevation of my own consciousness and the elevation of all of humanity through this? And it's we have to do this. This, believe it or not, is how our forefathers acted. You know, every single day when I go into the Shemona Esrei, the silent prayer, the first prayer is the most important prayer. The Jewish law says, actually, that if a person doesn't say that first prayer with intention, he has to go back and say it. We don't do that these days, because who says the time, if you got to go back, you got to say it, you got to say it with the right idea in mind, right? So the idea here is you have to go back. It's important. And what is that first blessing? It is the blessing called Avot, or Avos, which means we say, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, God of Yitzchak, God of Abraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov. Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. Every single time I stop, I say this. I think this to myself when I say those words. And these are the most powerful, this is the most powerful meditation a person can do against his evil inclination. Are you ready for this? Put this in your pocket. What did the fathers do that they had a connection to the infinite in such a way where the infinite came to them and says, you guys are so it, you and your descendants forever and ever. In other words, you guys are it. Because listen, they be in the big book. They be in the big book, right? Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, the whole Genesis is about them. That's a big chunk, right? What were their deeds? And then that's question number 1. And then question number 2 is, when will my deeds reach their deeds? 2 questions. It's a little mini-minute meditation you do, but you have to really think about it and put your mind to it. And different answers could come. Yeah, you got to get your own answers. I'm not going to give you answers, okay? It's your own personal meditation. But at least you ask the question and you entertain the question, and that will put your mind to start trying to think in terms of what was their attitude, what were their dreams, what were their aspirations, what were their thoughts. You have to give a little caveat here, very important. Is there any thought that you cannot think? Is that true or not? Answer that question in your mind. Is there any thought that you cannot think? I would think that you would say no. So obviously they had certain thoughts. Obviously they had certain perceptions. What were their perceptions? What were their thoughts? What were their deeds? When will my deeds reach their deeds? The idea here is this, and it's very dynamic. Every single one of their deeds was totally focused. Mindfulness, they had it down. You know, this big mindfulness is coming out. Dude, they had it down, man. We are when we go ahead and reach back into the Torah to reclaim who we are, it's all about mindfulness, because the little actions that we do, believe it or not, the little actions that we do have tremendous cosmic effects in the spiritual realm. The littlest thoughts have tremendous cosmic effects. And they were totally aware of that. And every single thing that they were doing, and the little things you would think about, that you would see them doing, they were having tremendous insights into the elevation, that they were saying, this is the most dynamic cosmic event that I am doing at this moment. I'm saving the world. I am bringing the lost princess back to the king. Okay, can you imagine them doing that and their actions doing that? Can you imagine? Okay, and now you have to imagine yourself, that when you're going to the post office, you got to use your imagination. Yes, you got to use your vision, your imagery. And you're going to say, wow, this simple act, and you're going to find out. You got to learn how to create ways. You got to create ways how the seemingly mundane acts we're doing have tremendous cosmic effects. Example, when you're cleaning the floor in your living room, you're cleaning the holy temple, right? Just to give you a little bit of an, you could use your mind to that. When you apply your mind, it actually becomes that, and you actually elevate it, okay? We're getting there. Okay? Whether we like it or not, we're getting there. Okay? So, now I don't even remember where I was. Okay, here we go. God is hidden in the Torah. Okay? It's an unbelievable idea. It's an unbelievable concept. Okay? But the idea here is, in the Torah is God's face. In the Torah, and we're going to see, when we apply ourselves to the Holy Torah, we're really going to make efforts, but something else happens to us, okay? Therefore, I'm going on page 161, the last paragraph. Therefore, the sages were perfectly precise in their language when they said, a person who says, Yagati umatsasi, I made effort, and I found this person you can believe. For the labor is in Torah, and the finding refers to Gilui Panim, the revelation of God's face in the true perception of divine providence. That means your level of consciousness is where you can actually get a grasp that God is infusing all of creation, and that you actually will see it. This, they purposely did not say, I labored and I merited, zachiti. I labored and I acquired, kanisi. They didn't use that. As then it would be possible to mistake their meaning and think that the merit and acquisition of direct perception depends upon the acquisition of Torah alone. Aha! That's the big, huge, here's the fork. Here's the fork in the road. Here's where things split. Follow me here, okay? The word finding teaches us that they intended an aspect additional to acquisition of Torah alone. In other words, a person can persevere. He can work. He can acquire Torah. You can get all the knowledge. You can collect all your wisdom stamps. I got a lot of wisdom stamps. I know Baba Kama. I know Baba Metzia. I know this Masech. I know that Masech. I know all of Shas. I know all of Poskim. I know all of this. You have a lot of book knowledge, and it's wonderful, but still, are you of any value? Okay, did you reach it? It's not acquisition. A person, when they're approaching Torah, there's an additional intention that they have to get. Not just acquiring Torah. This is called, you want Gilui Panim. You want the revelation of God's face. And this is the grace of the revelation of God's face as being the true nature of divine providence. I want to see you, God. I'm learning Torah. I'm making efforts. I'm going to try to understand. I'm going to apply my mind. And even with all your application of your mind into understanding this text or that text or whatever it is, the idea here is then Hashem is going to open your eyes and you're going to see a wonder. And from then you're going to get an attachment. And that attachment is going to propel you to higher levels of consciousness. Okay? So in other words, when a person approaches Torah, there's a different, additional intention you have to have. Not just, I want to know this fact, that fact, I want to know this. It's important to have that. I'm not saying not. But there you want to get what we call the opening of your eyes to the wonders of the Torah. Because that's called the beginning stage. That's when the door opens. And then you'll be meriting the Gilui Panim, the revelation of God's face. So going on paragraph 94, okay? So that's why it says, Yagati umatsati. I made effort and I found. Meaning the person makes effort. And you know something? We have this rule in the world. A person has to make their effort, let's say, in terms of parnasa, in terms of livelihood. And if you haven't seen it yet, I have certainly seen it in so many places, where a person makes their effort in this direction, because it seems to be the right way to go ahead and make effort. But there's no real, they don't see success necessarily. And then what happens is, all of a sudden, from over here comes the success. From over here comes the bit of opening of a person's eyes or whatever it is. In other words, you want to get your customers over here, so you make effort over here, but all of a sudden here comes the customer from over here. It happens to me all the time. I go ahead and pay for Google Ads, and I got this website, and all of a sudden somebody calls me because they read my blog. Okay? Boom. I didn't expect to get a call from the blog. Okay? But that's how it works, because God is telling us, relax, buddy boy. I'm in charge here, okay? So the idea here is everything revolves around us putting effort, but it's always God is going to see the degree of our effort, the degree of our sincerity, and really it's all about the mind, and it's all about how you focus in your mind to direct your thoughts, to direct your heart, and then God gives it to you, okay? So paragraph 94. This also resolves our surprise over the statement. If a person were to say, I did not labor and yet I found, here we do not believe such a person. It seems odd, as who would have imagined in the first place that one could merit to Torah without first laboring in it, right? Who would think that? In other words, what would be we call it in Hebrew, a havamina. How could you imagine such a statement? How could you even think that someone would be able to get to Torah without putting some effort in? However, now we see that these words hinge on the biblical phrase, those who seek me, find me. Their meaning being that anybody, regardless of capacity or talent, who truly seeks God will immediately find him. And this is implied by the expression, those who seek me. So you would think if you would just have the phrase from the Proverbs in chapter 8, that those who seek me find me, you would think, okay, I can find God without any labor. A person might then think that there's no need for such a great effort, and that even a person of inferior motivation who is not prepared to put any effort will also find God. Okay, I seek a little bit. I go out the door. I look around. Okay? No. Therefore, our sages caution us not to believe in such an explanation. Effort is an essential part of the spiritual path, and one should not believe someone who says that they put in no effort but nonetheless found. I'm sorry, folks. We gotta put some effort. But what is in the effort when you think about it? Okay? Yes, it says, by the sweat of your brow you shall live. okay? That has to do with parnasa, okay, livelihood. But a person has to develop within themselves a sincere desire to seek a connection to the unlimited, to seek a connection to the unlimited creative intelligence who made us, okay? Because the unlimited creative intelligence who made us, who we'll call the is, or the all there is, that no thought can fathom. Just meditate on that. No thought can contain you. No thought can picture you. Who created us for the purpose of having a connection to him. Okay? You have to want it. Oh, man. It ain't going to be a freebie. Okay? Because we're here to get out of the whole principle of the bread of shame. There has to be effort on our part. Okay? How much effort? It depends upon your will. But it's about developing your will. Somebody asking a question out there? Or is somebody coughing? Okay? 1 second here. Okay. So the idea here is a person has to build the will. You have to build a will to want to seek God. When you wake up in the morning, yes, it's an unbelievable phrase that we do say, Rabba emunatecha, great is your faith, God. And it should instantly awaken within ourselves, I want to see God. Okay? And you have to find him. And the place to go is you have to engage in Torah study. It's not going to happen without it. Okay? So now I think we're in paragraph 95. Okay? So we answered the person who says, I didn't look and yet I found. Ain't going to happen without some effort. Okay? 95. From this we can understand why the Torah is called by the name of life. Don't forget, interestingly enough. Now, we always add a question. What is Torah Lishma? Okay? Everybody, all of the rabbinical students in the entire world are all aware of this principle called Torah Lishma, Torah for its sake, or for its name, or for her name. Okay? And what does it mean? Why isn't it Torah Lishmo? Right? Torah for his name, or Torah L'Shem Shemayim, or learning Torah for the sake of heaven. Right? What does that mean, Torah Lishma? Everything is about Lo Lishma, Bo Lishma, we say. You learn Torah even for ulterior motives, but eventually you'll get to the right motives. Don't forget. You have to have the intention in mind to get to the right motives. And what are the right motives? What is Torah Lishma? What is Torah for its sake, for its name? Literally, that's what it means. For her name. It means Torah for the sake of life because it's called Torah Chaim. Life. It has to give life. Okay? And what does it mean? Okay, the Torah is called by the name of Chaim, life. As it is written, see, I have set before you both life and good.
This little thingy broke.
I'll fix it later. Thank you. Okay.
The little thingy broke.
Okay. See, I have set before you today both life and good and death and evil. Therefore, choose life. Okay? This is what we have a verse in Deuteronomy. God is kind of like putting our hands exactly where it has to be. This is what you should choose. But no. He moves our hands, right? What kind of choice is that? Okay? Because it's life. Likewise, it is also written, my teachings are life to those that find them. So we have here ideas of the Torah is life-giving. The Torah derives this name from the verse we have, in the light of the king's face is life. Okay? Since God, this is very important, 1 second. Since Torah, okay, since God, this is so unbelievable, is the source of all life. You have to think about that and let that sink in. It's very important because some people think that their source comes from other places. Okay? You have to only understand there's only one source. Some people run to their cell phones every second to go and see if there's another email or they made a sale or whatever have you. God is the source. God is the only source. And that's why we say, actually, we're supposed to say 100 blessings a day. Because when you look at the word Baruch, okay, the word Baruch means source. In one definition, according to Rav, in Share Ora by Rabbi Yosef Gekatia. So when you say the word Baruch Atah Shem, you're saying you are the source, God. So it's a total recognition. Every time we say a blessing, we're going, there's no other source but God. And we're recognizing that and expressing that, God, you are the source. In other words, whether it's an orange or whether it's a mitzvah, God is the source of everything. And the whole idea is that why did they institute 100 blessings? Because men forget, okay? We're very forgetful. But since God is the source of all life and all good, there's no other source. Therefore, life is transmitted from him to all those branches that cleave to their source. So this may be said concerning all those who have labored and found the light of God's face in the Torah. Once you see God's face in the Torah, to know that that is your source, and God is the source of everything. They have merited that their eyes are opened in the Torah. Gal einai v'abita niflaos mitorah sechem. Their eyes are opened in the Torah in a wondrous perception until they came to the revelation of God's face, which means the perception of the true nature of providence that befits God's name as the good, because it is the nature of good to do good. Now, right now, you can just put yourself in that. Actually, we were required to do that all the time, okay? As much as we can, and that is the effort. Don't forget, remember we're saying that we're seekers here? Those who seek me will find me, okay? You have to have the will to seek God. You have to have the will. What are we shooting for? To seek that revelation of God's divine providence. We were looking for the aha. And the idea here is it's just a thought away. The effort has to be where you can actually right now envision yourself as if your eyes have been opened in the Torah. And you can actually get a little glimpse of what that feels like. And it's important if you could do that with me. It's called a waking meditation, as I'm guiding you right now, to try to touch within your psyche, within your mind, within your heart, to feel what it would feel like to have that gilui panim, that revelation of God's face. You can now picture as if you were studying Torah, and then all of a sudden your eyes become opened. And all of a sudden, you're just completely blown away. And all of a sudden, you don't see the world the same way anymore. The world is completely different. And you can just, as I say this, you could guide yourself through this and get a feel of it for a second. Once you even, for a moment, get the feeling of it, then you're opened to being aware of it. And then that is the effort. Would you believe it or not? That is the effort. It's an amazing secret that I'm telling you right this moment, okay? It's in my book, okay? It comes from the verse that we say in Tehillim. I think it's Psalm 91, that says that Nachon kisecha mi'az. Your throne is established from what we call Az. What does Az mean? Literally, it means then, okay? But then it's a code word. Az means Az Yashir. Az Yashir is a strange word, okay? It ties into every single thing that he's been saying here. Az, actually, is the word that Nachshon ben Aminadav was saying when he jumped into the ocean. When he jumped into the sea, when they were being chased by the Egyptians, it was one guy who jumped in, and he went in up to here. And when he went in up to here, he went in with a certain attitude. His attitude was called then, okay? His attitude was if we are going to sing about this. We are going to sing about this. That was his attitude when he jumped in. In other words, he had such a grasp of emunah and bitachon and trust in God. That level of his emunah, that level of that trust of him jumping in the ocean with the attitude of we are going to sing about this, that caused the sea to split. And that is why Moshe came up with the word of Oz was the first word of the song. Because of Oz, Yashir Moshe. Moshe is singing because of Nachman, the guy who jumped in. His Oz, therefore we're singing now. In other words, before the actual event happened, right? Before the event happened, he was imagining as if, feeling as if it happened already. This is a huge rule. They bring it out in The Secret, right? That book there that I never read, but I heard about it. I think I saw the part of the movie. Is you got to feel the feelings first before it actually happens. People want to get married. You got to feel, you got to be shopping for the wedding dress. People want to get parnasa. You got to feel what it feels like to have this incredible parnasa. People want to get this, that, or this, that. You have to feel the feeling first. And then what we call is the angels that we create with that feeling, they bring us to the fruition of whatever it is. That's how it works. State first, then comes the expression, okay? It's a huge rule. So this is why I'm guiding you through this. To imagine yourself studying, imagine your eyes become opened, and then imagine you see God's face, and you can picture you don't have to picture a picture, just get the feeling, because the feeling is within us already. And then that feeling tone is the effort. That's the effort to get you there. Believe it or not. So, when you talk about effort, okay, we love to toil. People love to go to the gym, okay? And because why? You get more out of it. The more effort. But starting with the minimal, the eye of the needle. Hashem says you open up the eye of a needle. Hashem opens up the huge ulam, the huge wedding hall, okay? So that's where we start from. That's why he says earlier, Kol ha'omed legabot kegabui dami, all who stand to collect as if they collected. All who stand to collect. In other words, you got your business deal, the money's coming. It's as if it's in the bank, okay? So how happy are you right now? Okay, that's what we have to grasp right now, okay? Paragraph 96. Those who merit this state of consciousness that I just tried to give you a little smidge of. Those who merit this state of consciousness cannot refrain from performing any mitzvah in its proper way, in just the same way that a person who finds he or she cannot forego a great pleasure which has come to him or her. Whatever the pleasure is, the cup of coffee, the good chocolate pie, or whatever it is. Right? Just like a person would run to that, they would run to a mitzvah with the same amount of joy and energy. Similarly, in such a state of consciousness, flee from sin like one who runs away from a fire. About them it is written, but you, but those who cleave to the Lord your God are alive this day. God's love reaches and benefits them as completely a natural love, flowing through the natural channels prepared for the person as part of the nature of the created world. For now, and this is important, the branch is found to be in affinity with its root, as is befitting. In other words, there's a tree. We are the branches, and there's a root. Life flows through the person in great bounty from its source without any pause. For this reason, the Torah is called by the name of life, Eitz Chaim Hi Lamacha Zikim Ba. It is a tree of life to those who grasp it. In other words, you make yourself a branch of that tree, meaning you're connected to the source. Your attitude is, and you have to understand this. Some people don't. Some people still have doubts. They're going to put doubts. It's going to happen. But you have to overcome those. Would you think that God would deny you for a second this unbelievable connection? Do you doubt for a second that God wants to deny you that? And answer that truthfully. Is it a yes or a no? And if you say, well, if you go like that, that is not the correct answer. you can't doubt for a second that God wants you to have that unbelievable connection. It's just a thought away, okay? Because the source, we're surrounded by the infinite source right now. Okay? So we become the branch that's connected to the tree. Torah lishma. I am connected to life because I'm connected to Torah, and I'm connected to Torah, learning it, engaging in it for the right reasons. Because why? Torah is my life. Can you imagine thinking that Torah is your oxygen? Yeah. Okay? It is your oxygen. Problem is we don't know it. We're used to breathing in like, carbon dioxide or whatever it is, okay? Fumes from other places, okay? Mixed in. Really, you got to get the pure stuff. 97. The sages have thus cautioned us in many places regarding the necessary requirement that our practice of Torah should be carried out for its own sake, lishma. We want to get to the Torah lishma. Amazing how you would approach Torah lishma and open up a book because it's time for me to get my oxygen. Then through the Torah we will gain life because the Torah is law of life. It was for this purpose that it was given to us, as it is written, you shall choose life. Some people like to choose smog-infested fumes. Therefore, when a person engages in Torah, he or she should do so with their whole mind and heart in order to find within it what? We're looking for something else in the Torah. Yes, we're engaging in Torah. Yes, we're trying to find out what the words mean. Yes, we're trying to put the concepts together. But there's an additional intention that we have to have, and that is to find the face of the living King. And this is the perception of divine providence in its revealed state, which is called the light of his face, or panav, the light of God's face. Everyone has the capacity to attain this. Everyone has the capacity to attain this. And do I need to repeat it again? Everyone has the capacity to attain this, as it is written, all those who seek me, find me. The question is, are you looking? I remember hearing by Shlomo Carlebach, he was giving this great concert, and he says, you want to tell people where God is, he's right there. He's right next to you. He's right here. And people say to him, no, God, listen, man, my schedule, I'm searching for another 10 years. Don't interrupt my searching, okay? I've still got a ways to go for my searching. And he says, God is right here. He's in front of you. Just learn Torah, right? No, God, I'm still... And then there's always the people. I heard this. I say this all the time, There's two doors, right? There's the lecture to the Garden of Eden, and then there's the door to the Garden of Eden itself. And the door to the lecture has got a line, 4 blocks long, right? Because everybody's lining up to the lecture on the Garden of Eden. But when the actual door to the Garden of Eden is right there, no, we want to learn. We want to, the lecture. We want to go to the lecture on the Garden of Eden. We're not ready for the Garden of Eden yet, okay? That's it, When he's right there, you seek, but you have to want to seek him. And he throws us stuff all the time. And I'll tell you this. They canceled my flights. Norwegian Airlines canceled my flights. Right? I get this text. Okay, I'll change. Okay, I will reschedule another day. So no big deal, right? You're talking about I'm making Aliyah to Israel from Los Angeles. I call up the airline first. They canceled their number. Their number has been disconnected. They're out. I go to the booking agent who did it for me, and they checking. Okay, we'll reschedule your flight, right? And Mr. Cohen, right? And then all of a sudden, no, there's no flights in all of July and all of August. The next available flight is in September. I'm like, I can't go in September. I'm going in August. Thank you very much. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Okay, this is where I'm going. Wow, this is great. Okay, this is all good. I'm 3 hours on the phone with Cheapo Air. Okay, it's a wonderful experience, and thank God I didn't, I kept my cool. Okay, I had to buy a whole new Because you can't, no one, Norwegian Airlines went to Mars, right? They're gone, incommunicado. Anyways, Baruch Hashem, I say, it's all part of me discovering the face of God. He's got a plan. It's a good plan, and I'm going to go with the plan, okay? You have to just sometimes when things don't go as expected and as planned, the first thing you got to always teach yourself to say is, thank you, Hashem. He's doing me a favor. And it doesn't look like a favor, but he's doing me a favor, okay? You might not see the favor, but you have to hang on, okay? Because it's all part of seeing God's face, okay? What, you're going to think it came from nature or a coronavirus? Those are just little heichetimsas, what we call. They're just little, how it manifests, whatever. God is really running the show completely. So anyways, okay, everyone has the capacity to attain this. Everyone has the capacity to attain this. As it is written, all those who seek me will find me. Are you a seeker? Do I want to seek? That's the first question. Nah, I'm not really interested, right? A person lacks nothing except effort. As we learned, I labored, but I did not find. Don't believe him. The person who says I labored, but I did not find, then what do you say to that? He's not laboring. Is he really seeking God? Don't forget, this is what the statement in Gemara Megillah is speaking about, right? It's about finding the face of God, not acquiring Torah, okay? So the person who labors and he does not find, then his labor was in the wrong area, okay? The laboring has to be wanting, with the intention of wanting to see the face of God. The Talmud tells us, when a person occupies himself with Torah for its own sake, then the Torah becomes an elixir of life for him. That is to say, only when a person puts his or her whole mind and heart to Torah, which he or she merit life, this is what is meant by Torah for its own sake. In other words, it has to be life-giving, okay? As we know that sometimes it could be a drug of death for those who approach Torah in the wrong way, with the wrong intention. Our intention when we approach Torah is it has to give life, okay? Now you have to define what's life. You have to think of what is life, okay? One thing's for sure, has to have a smile, okay? Can't be. Okay? Now you can see that the problem that the sages raised concerning the mitzvah of loving God, which is what we've been trying to get to for these past who knows how many classes. The mitzvah of loving God, namely that as love cannot come by force or compulsion. God cannot force you, love me. Okay? It doesn't work. Okay? It's not a problem, he says. It happens to be not a problem after all. Why? Thank God. As it turns out, love is completely in our hands. After all, everyone can make the effort in Torah until he or she achieves the attainment of the revealed aspect of God's providence. As it is written, I labored and I found. Yagati umasati ta'amin. When a person, by the way, I've got a little meditation for that right now, okay? Now, I want you to now picture yourself. I want you to picture yourself as if you've already attained that level of consciousness. You're there. Where you see a mitzvah as being the most unbelievably rewarding experience just to do it. And running away from a transgression, like running away from a fire. Imagine that you are there. And you imagine that now that you are there in that state, you have to picture it in your heart. The feeling, what it feels like to be there already. And then you say, Yagati umatsati ta'amin. I am going to believe that I made effort and I found. Okay? So you have to, in other words, use the idea of I choose to believe that I labored and I found. Okay? This is what I choose to believe. And when a person merits the revelation of God's providence, as it really is, once he gets to that, then love is drawn to the person of itself through natural channels, as we have already explained. Whoever does not believe that one can attain this level through one's own effort for whatever reason does not believe in the teaching of our sages, right? that means that a person can see God through the Torah, but imagines that effort alone is not sufficient for everyone. This is contrary to what we have learned. I labored, but I did not find. That we do not believe if a person says that. So in other words, a person has to only believe. You put effort, you'll get. God does not want to withhold it from you, this level of consciousness in any way. The question is, are you seeking it? And then when you get to that, then of course God is going to open your eyes and you're going to fall in love, okay? You cannot use the excuse of, I labored but I didn't get it. It won't happen. This we do not believe. This is not in our programming. This view also contradicts the biblical passage that says, everyone who seeks me will find me. So this is true of everyone, regardless of capacity. You don't have to be the big scholar. You don't have to be the simplest guy. The simplest guy. However, effort is definitely required. I will end with this Baal Shem Tov story. He would go around, and as he was in his early stages of his life, he would go around the Baal Shem Tov and start to talk to business people and simple folk, right? And of course, he wasn't dressed like some big Hasidic Rebbe. He was dressed in a worker's, in a laborer's, water carrier's garments, right? Simple stuff. But he would talk to people, and then he would tell them stories. And then when there was enough people around, then he hit them with the big story, right? And the big story was this. It was once this guy who was bringing to the Holy Temple, back in the temple times in Jerusalem. He was bringing this big, fat ox to be slaughtered as a huge sacrifice, right? This rich man bought this big ox. It wasn't cheap. Oxes weren't cheap. To this bull wasn't cheap. He was bringing it, but the ox wasn't moving. He couldn't get it to move. He's just approaching the temple. It's just over there, but he can't get the animal to move. And he's got 10 guys trying to budget this thing, not moving at all. And he's really upset because he's got to bring it. And a guy's passing by, and he's got some carrots. He's got a bundle of carrots. And he sees the guy's plight, this rich man, a poor guy. So he takes his carrots, and of course he gives it to the animal. The animal nibbles on a little bit, and he uses the famous carrot stick principle, and he gets them all the way up to the temple, right? Eating and nibbling on the carrots, nibbling, and walking, and finally he gets them, and the guy offers the sacrifice, and he's very happy, and he brings even more. He brings what we call a shlamim offering, which was this kind of offering, a peace offering. You feast at home. You give a little parts to the Cohen, and then you take the rest home and you eat it with your whole family and friends around. And that night, the rich guy has a dream. And in the dream, God says, that guy with the carrots, his offering was way higher than yours. And the guy, why? He says, that guy, he was not a rich guy. He was a poor guy. And he was going out and he was bringing food for his family that night. And that was his only food, was those carrots. And he used something which is like, it doesn't look like much, right? But he came and he helped you to get that thing up and offered those carrots. And it wasn't even like offered on the altar itself. But that was way more dear to me. Way more on a higher level than yours. Not that yours wasn't high, but his, it hit the roof. So the idea here is, it doesn't matter. The simplest guy doing the simplest little act could have profound effects. It's what's in the heart. Do you want to see God's face, or are you not seeking? Are you seeking, or are you not seeking? Okay? So the idea here is to really integrate in us the will to want to seek, especially nowadays with what's going on in the world. Things are crazy. It's unbelievable. I was thinking like a month ago, I'm living in a twilight zone. Now it's not even a twilight zone. I don't know. It's twilight zone on steroids, because it's like the whole world is just flipping. Okay. And, God is shaking that rope. It doesn't look like God is, he looks like he, wherever. But no, he's involved, and you want to see God. I got a little, indulge, just one more second. I had a question for a long time. Noah was in the ark, Noah and his ark, and the ark was floating, and finally it got wedged on Mount Ararat. And, after a while, he opens up the window, and, there's only water. You look around, whatever directions, I don't know if it was a four-way window, but he can only see water. You can't see any land. So he sends out the bird, right, to go and see if there's land. And I'm like, wow, that's really, an interesting idea. And what are you expecting to do? It was a question of mine for a long time. Like, you don't have an outboard motor. You don't have any oars. You cannot wedge yourself off the mountain. The boat is too big. What are you going to, what, great, you found some land in Taiwan, okay? How you going to get there? You can't even get there. So what good is it? What use is it? So I asked my Rosh Hashiva, and he answered me. And he says, us Jews, we always just want to see God all the time. And so Noah opens up the window and he sends out the bird because he wants to see how God's running the world. So even if there is land in Taiwan and you can't get to it, or Malaysia, okay? Doesn't matter. You want to see God as much as possible and reveal and see and give yourself the opening to see God. We should all be developed in our emunah. Thank God for the Torah, because the Torah is going to get us there. God is hidden in the Torah, and we seek him in the Torah. And so therefore we'll be merit to an opening of eyes and an opening of consciousness. Okay, we're going to end class today. Anybody got any questions, issues? How's everybody doing?
Great.
Wonderful, Rabbi.
Okay.
Wonderful.
We did. Thanks.
Pleasure. Anybody? Okay. Hello?
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right, bye-bye. Good to hear from y'all. Good to see you all.
Rabbi.
Till next time. Bye-bye.